So this is me. As I said, I've been at Teach First for a very long time, 15 years. And it's just been really interesting to be part of a journey where we've inspired a generation to do something that they didn't want to do, and it's having a phenomenal impact on the next generation. So getting talent into the toughest schools around the country to teach, to raise the attainment, the aspirations and the access for a new generation has been an absolute privilege. But it has made me realise that even if we fix that, there are so many other parts of society that are still really broken. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and our communities are not the units that they used to be, where there's always been crime, there's always been difficulty, but they used to be a community feel, which I think is really disappearing at the moment. So over the last 4 or 5 years, I've helped 4 other charities set up, some of the brands you may or may not know, but the same kind of concept. How do we get great talent in the country to come on and be a frontline practitioner, community impact professional, whatever you want to call it. The first to come afterwards was Frontline, which is children's social work. The next was Police Now, which is about reducing crime and increasing confidence in the police. Then Think Ahead, mental health, social work. Fascinating one where they're not only trying to bring in a new cadre of worker, but also influence the sector that they need more of them, because there's actually very few adult mental health social workers, and we medicate in this country rather than actually mix it with social work that we need. And then the most recent, Unlocked, which is prison officers, and it's all about rehabilitation. So 56–57% of prisoners are reoffending in the first year. What's the main reason why they're reoffending? It's because they can't get a job when they leave, and they fall back into difficulty. So what I'm now doing is actually setting up an alliance of those 5. So having been at Teach First for so long, I kind of felt there is something in if we could get these 5 organisations to work a bit more closely together. How can we inspire more graduates to do one of these programmes? How can we build the value proposition so that if you get an offer, you take it? Because the differential between public sector and now private sector, for me, is too big. Through recessions, people are worried about potential corporate jobs, and they'll go for public sector, but at the moment things are okay. We'll see what happens on the 29th of March next year, but at the moment things are kind of okay, and public sector is missing out. And then the final thing is, how do I connect the participants of those 5 programmes so that they can deliver more impact on the ground? Get the police officer talking to the teacher, talking to the social worker. And I can kind of see, having been doing what I've been doing at the moment, that unfortunately this country is led by actually quite a small number of people. Whether it's based on the class system or the empire, whatever you kind of have to look back in history, still this country is run by quite a small number of individuals. And whilst I'll never be able to eradicate that, I think in a way where I'm coming from is if I can get the country's future leaders to have done one of these programmes, then I do think we're going to get a fairer society. Because whether they stay in those public sector areas or whether they move into the corporate world or community work, I can just see 20, 30 years down the line, when we have got leaders in all fields, we have a education minister that's been a teacher in a tough school, we have, and so on, so on, so on. I can then see if they've experienced that together, then they will actually make some significant change. So the reason I'm kind of here in a way helping TSR is I had an amazing opportunity earlier this year to go to Number 10, to have a conversation about my idea with Transform, and to really push government on the value proposition. Because I do believe this is a key problem at the moment, that the best talent has the head and heart debate when they've got their offer from university. Do I go with my heart and do something where I'm going to give back and it's what I really want? Eek, I've got 50 grand's worth of debt, I don't think I can right now. Now the reality is, and you saw it there, they're actually leaving their jobs after a couple of years, and even kind of high flyers research that looks at the top 100 firms say that the graduate is spending about 2.6 years in their first job. So it's happening across all sectors that people are joining organisations and after a couple of years thinking, this isn't quite what I thought it was, I'd like to do something else. So I had an opportunity, and in a way I wanted proof from the student voice, because there's no point someone like me kind of going in and saying, this is what this generation wants, when I'm quite a long way from that generation. So I did a piece of work to try and understand around that value proposition, what is it that young people would want to influence them to do one of my programmes if I'm trying to up the numbers. So started to kind of work with the student room. We got about 1,000 graduates, good gender mix, good social economic mix as well, and also the split between Russell Group and non-Russell Group, because I'm passionate believer that it really makes absolutely no difference which university you go to. You can have the potential to make a real difference. So we needed to go out, and I assume people are going to have these slides, so I'll whip through it because I think we've been sitting down too long. Those were the kind of project objectives that we wanted to do, and I really wanted to understand from this group, you know, have I got something here and have I got something to shout about? So we did this max diff question. So this is not where you're kind of asking, do you want choice A or B? You're asking them lots of different things over a number of questions so that you start to kind of weed out, actually, on balance, this is the most important thing for me. And what you can see on the right-hand side here is these are the factors that are most important to graduates when they're going to apply to a scheme. Probably not unsurprising, they're wanting those professional qualifications. There is still, I suppose quite rightly, a belief that they're managing their own CV, and the more professional qualifications that they can add to their sack of stuff that they've got throughout their early career is brilliant. So whether that's, you know, teaching qualification or accounting qualifications, you know, whatever it is, those qualifications that are going to be with them for the rest of their lives and they can use. Of course they want a high salary, but what I was really excited about from the massive number of options that we gave them was this student loan paid off idea that I've got really came out well. Now I suppose it's not surprising because it's Willy Wonka time if someone's going to say, yeah, we'll pay off your student debt if you join a particular employer. Now there are some corporate employers out there that are doing that. I'm sure you're aware of them, but there's a number in FMCG that are just paying off your student debt for you when you arrive at that corporate employer. So I want to start competing with that in the kind of public sector. And also what was fascinating, because I've been obsessed with the US, and there is a package in the US that if you work for 10 years in frontline public service, they pay off your student debt. So I just thought, for goodness sake, if it's working in the US, and guess who are the groups that most take this up? It's those from the lowest socioeconomic background and those from people of colour, as they call it over in the US. Makes absolute sense. They're the ones, as we saw with the research earlier, are worried about the debt, are worried about their future. So if there's an opportunity to support them on that. So in a way, I had my evidence that the student loan idea was good. I then wanted to test out a couple of things as well, because I've started to see with the growth of Teach First and then the emergence of Frontline and Police now, you know, they're all shooting up the top 100. They've all started to gain a lot of traction, get lots of applicants. You know, I'm really, really proud of that, having been a part of it, but it's told me, I wonder if there's something here where public sector, it has got that kind of stale definition with it. Oh, you know, it's policy or it's librarians or it's whatever it may be. And actually these frontline community impact professionals could be something in there. And this again is exactly what the results that I wanted to see, is there started to be a differential. So the orange one is these public sector frontline roles. So I wanted to explain it without giving the brand names. But actually public sector, local government, civil service, wasn't coming out as strong. And this was exactly what I wanted to see, because I think there's an opportunity now with my alliance that I'm setting up, that there could be another 5, 10, 15, 20 programs over the next few years. And I'm hoping there'll be lots of different areas of public sector which we can promote. So it was incredibly useful for me. Obviously it's all about the kind of end results. Whilst they didn't just sign me a cheque for multiple millions, there's a surprise, what they have done is put me in touch with the right people in various different government departments. So I'm having great conversations at the moment with the Home Office around some projects that we're going to work on together. And I also just wanted to do a quick shout out for the No, which is an amazing thing which the Student Room put on as well with a few other partners. A few times a year we all come together for a really nice dinner and actually debate some really interesting topics. So it was unconditional offers, was one of the big ones at the last. You know, lots of commitments there that my institution won't do that again, because it's, I think we would all agree, it's not the right kind of thing to be doing, because students do then take their foot off the gas and that can cause lots of problems. But just a really great way to informally come together. So I just wanted to say thank you to the Student Room for their support.